Okay, now I don't have my normal microphone with me, so I think the sound quality of this recording might be off slightly, but I think it'll be good enough for you to get quite a bit out of this. So let's take a look at equivalent units, a production report, which is problem 3-11. We're dealing with Tropical Sun Limited, and they make suntan lotion in two stages, the blending department and then the bottling department. And we've got this information that you can see on the screen dealing with how much work in process was in beginning. It looks like 8,000 units. Now, I'm just reading right in this table area here. Started into production was 98,000. They completed and transferred out 92,000, and then work in process was ending with 75% complete as to the materials that were added to the process and 30% complete as to the conversion, which means the labor and the overhead involved in that production process. All right, let's compute the production report. And first, let's work on the equivalent units of production. So one thing that we know is that we would start off with what was transferred to the next department, right? And we're dealing with the operations of the blending department. So we're doing the first step. And it looks like what was completed and transferred out were 92,000. Well, if it was completed and transferred out, they were 100% complete as to both units. So we just enter 92,000 to show that the equivalent units were the full amount of the units transferred. And then we need to come up with what was the ending work in process. Okay? And we've got to consider those separately. All right, well, the ending work in process with respect to materials was 14,000 units right above my mouse. But materials, it's 14,000 units, and they were only 75% complete. So we'll take times 75%, and we've got 10,500 units. Now for conversion cost, we take the same 14,000 units, and we multiply them times the percentage that they were completed, which was 30%, taken right from the left of my mouse there. Okay? And so what we know is the equivalent units of production that were completed. Let me indent this. I really don't have to, but I will. And I'll just sum these. I'm just using an auto sum feature from my menu, okay? So we're just sum from above. We know the equivalent units of production was 102,500 for material and 96,200 for conversion. I'll underline that to make it look pretty good. Okay, now we need to work on the cost per equivalent unit. So I've slid down a little bit below, and we can tackle this one. We would enter the cost per beginning work in process. Okay. And the cost of beginning work in process is given right there, 7,900 for materials and 9,000 for conversion. So we just enter that in, right? 7,900. And 9,000, and let me enter that as a $sign with no decimal places, so we know that now we're dealing with dollars. Up above here we were dealing with units. And then we need to add in the costs added during the period. And the cost added, they tell us, is 106,460, 106,460, and 145,390. Okay, so then we can compute the total costs per equivalent unit. And actually, let me total cost per equivalent. No, let me just use the total line, calling it total cost, and I'll just hit my auto sum key from Excel. And you could do this manually or just say plus, but you'll see the formula did get copied in there correctly. Okay, so I've got 114,360 and 154. Now let me slide the screen a little bit here so we see a little bit more. And then we need to come up with the equivalent unit of production. Okay, an equivalent unit of production we just pull from right here. And you know, we really could have just put it up there, but I'll bring it down again. And from there, we can calculate the cost per equivalent unit. And so we would take, now I'm going to format this a little bit better. I think I want to put dollar signs here. And now I'll take the dollars divided by the units. And that is in dollars, but we're going to show that with 2 decimal places, okay? And that's really the answer we're looking for in terms of cost per equivalent unit, $1.12 for material and $1.60 for conversion costs. Okay, now I've split the screen so we can still see the information up top, and down below we can continue to work on this. So the next step is to determine the cost of ending work in process and units transferred out. Okay, so if we drop in the ending work in process inventory, we would need to come up with the equivalent units of production. And we already have that for the ending. I'll sort of slide up here. It's those units right there, the 10,500 and the 4,200. So I will just reference those cells from above, which was 10,500. Slide on down, and then I can copy this over. It'll pull the 4,200 up. Okay. Then next, we would need to calculate the cost per equivalent unit. I'm just going to copy right from here. Actually, copy that. And then reference those cells because we've already calculated that. So I've got the 10,500. Let me just slide this. Oh, I see what happened here. I just got a little bit of error here. Take that there, take that there. So I've got 10,500. Now we've got $1.60 equivalent unit, cost per equivalent unit. So once we have that, we just do the multiplication, and we can come up with the cost of ending work in process inventory. I'm going to spell that out. Okay. So the cost of ending would be the 10,500 units, equivalent units production times the cost. And we'll round this. We don't need decimal points. And so that's going to be dollars and cents. Copy that there. And we've come up with cost of ending work in process. Now we also need to come up with the cost of the units transferred out. So let me actually italicize this so we know that that's sort of a label. And I'll italicize this as units transferred out. And the units transferred out would be units transferred to the next department. And we already calculated is 92,000, right? From earlier in the problem, we calculated it came from that cell, 92,000. I know I'm sliding and that's hard to follow, but drop it in there. And the cost per equivalent unit, again, it's already calculated. I'll just pull from above. Format that in dollars. And we can copy here, only this would now be called cost of units transferred out. Okay, multiply, so we can just copy from here and we'll come up with 102, 645, and 147, 645. Okay, then the next step is to compute the cost reconciliation. Okay, now this time, to save some time, I went ahead and put in the labels. So the cost reconciliation, we first come up with the cost to be accounted for, and then we indicate where those costs appear. So cost of beginning work in process, and we only need one column here, was the 7,900 plus the 9,000. So if we enter the 7,900 given plus the 9,000, we have $16,900 of beginning work in process. And the amount we added was the 106,460 and the 145,390. And this would come from the general ledger, right? This would be tracked within the company's general ledger. So we have total cost to account for, just the sum of those two. Use the auto sum key and we come up with 268,750. I'll put a $sign around that, no decimal places, and underline it. And then we have to determine how did we do in coming up with our values. Well, the cost of ending work in process inventory was equal to the 11,715 for materials plus the 6,741 for conversion. So if I entered both of those, I get 18,455. By the way, I'm going to format this all the same way, right? And the units transferred out would be that 102,645 that we did in the earlier step, plus that 147,649 for conversion cost for 250. And if we've done this right, I can copy this formula, and that number there will equal that one. And it does. So we've worked this problem, everyone. I hope you found that beneficial.